Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for attending. We'll just give it a few minutes while we wait for everyone else to join. Thank you so much for joining us on your Saturday afternoon or morning, wherever you are. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you so much to everyone for coming. My name is Carly Harward. I am the Northeast Regional Representative for University College Dublin. And I am also an alumna of the university, graduating in 2019 with my master's degree in drama and performance studies. So excited to talk to you all today about kind of next steps and UCD in general for graduate students. I'm joined here by my colleague, Shannon. Shannon, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Shannon Farley and I'm the regional lead in North America. I am based in our New York office. I've been with UCD for almost 6 years now. I'm really excited to get this information to you today that I'm sure you'll have many questions at the end. But I will be hanging out in the chat, so if there is any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to throw them in there.
All right, so let's get started. All right, so we're going to start off with a little poll. So what are you most excited for, or what's the #1 on your bucket list when getting to Ireland? Is it A, taking pictures at the Cliffs of Moher on the west of Ireland, B, a scenic drive around the Ring of Kerry, experiencing history at the Rock of Cashel, wandering the streets of Dublin, hiking the Wicklow Mountains, or F, going on a Howth cliff walk, also with fish and chips for lunch? All right, so we have about 92% that have participated at this stage, and our winner, if we want to publish the poll. So we have our winner at D, Wandering Dublin, closely followed by the Wicklow Mountains. Absolutely beautiful to go for a hike on the weekend, not too far from UCD either. Rock of Cashel, also beautiful, going to see the Cliffs of Moher, and then Howth Cliff Walk and Ring of Kerry. Very cool. All right, so thank you again for attending. So I'm sure that you all have a lot of questions. Like Shannon said, feel free to put them into the chat if you have any questions, and we'll answer throughout. And then at the end, we will open up for a Q&A as well. We have a current student and an alum as well. So for any questions that you may have, we'll open up for a Q&A at the end. But for any questions you may have after this event, we encourage you to connect with your regional representatives. We have 4 regional representatives throughout the US. So like I said, I'm the representative for the Northeast. My colleague Kendall is in the Mid-Atlantic, covering New Jersey down to Florida. We have Bridie in the Central region, as you can see in the navy blue, covering a large portion of the US and Canada. And then we have Chelsea in the West Coast. So any questions that you may have after this event on until your departure for Dublin, please feel free to reach out to them. We're all happy to connect via email or set up a Zoom meeting, or if we're in your area, happy to meet up in person as well. All right, so thanks again. So University College Dublin, we're ranked in the top 1% of higher education institutes worldwide. We're located just about 20 to 30 minutes south of the Dublin city center, on a beautiful 300-acre campus. We have about 29,000 students total. 1,500 full-time professors, 35% of them are international. And we're also ranked 22nd in the Times Higher Education Impact Ranking for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in 2021. As I said at the beginning, I received my graduate degree in drama and performance studies in 2019. And now I'm going to open it up for Colin and Jackie, if you guys want to introduce yourselves and tell us about what you studied or what you are studying.
Jackie, would you like to go first?
Sure. Okay. Hi, my name is Jackie. I did my master's in international relations. I graduated in 2020. And now I currently work at the Irish Consulate in New York as a consular and administrative officer.
And hello, everybody. My name is Colin Coussart. I'm a current graduate student at UCD right now, studying information systems, artificial intelligence, all that scary stuff. And for anyone, the 12% who said the Hoth Cliff Walk, that is right behind me. So good choice.
All right, thank you so much. So they will be in the chat if you have any questions, and at the end during the Q&A, they'll be happy to answer those questions as well. So kind of moving on about just academics at UCD and kind of setting up in UCD as well. One thing that's going to be different from maybe your US undergraduate experience is that your UCD email will become available a little bit later in the process. So you actually won't receive your UCD email address until around late August. So I always suggest that if your current email address you're using is attached to a school or anything like that, that you may lose access to in the summer, just make sure you update that in SysWeb to an email that you are checking frequently, as that's where all of your communication will come to until you receive that UCD address in around late August. So module registration or class registration will also start in late August, so you'll have access through that through SysWeb. And the way that you have classes at UCD, there's core modules and optional modules. So modules is just another word for classes. It's what they say at UCD. So core modules are going to be those that are required, often at a specific time. So your core modules, it'll say you have to take this in the fall semester and this in the spring semester. And then your optional modules, there may be a list of, let's say, 5 or 6 different classes, pre-vetted courses, affiliated or in the similar topic of your major, and it'll say, you know, from this list, pick 1 or 2. And so you kind of have that flexibility there, but that's what you can expect in course registration. You'll receive module information directly from your program. We have over 200 different graduate programs at UCD. So as you can imagine, they're highly specific. So you'll get that direct information from your program. Now, once we're in academics at UCD, you're possibly going to receive less grades than what you're used to in high school and the undergraduate level as well. It would not be uncommon to just have a midterm exam and a final, or midterm paper and a final paper. So just be aware of that you may not have those little assignments, and you may not you know, have as updated of, I guess, an understanding of your grade kind of from week 2 or 3. You may not have your first assignment due until midterm or so. And then one thing that I always like to point out that maybe didn't catch me off guard, but was something I had to adjust to, was after final exams of first semester, second semester, you can expect to receive those around 6 weeks after finishing, which is something that was definitely different than what I was used to. So I always just like to warn students of that. Jackie or Colin, is there anything you want to add about the academic experience at UCD that differs from the US to the Irish way?
Actually, something I experienced just the other day was the percentage system is much different associated with the letter grade. 67%, which in America is a D, which is not so great, is actually a B+ here in Ireland. And that caught me off guard when I first got here. So definitely go by the letter grade. Don't look at the percentages, because as it's ingrained into our brain, you think it's bad, but it actually could be fine.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, about the less grades was definitely not what I was used to. And I wrote papers, really. I didn't really have too many exams for my course. So I think it really just is dependent on the course.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Okay, we can move to the next slide, Shannon. All right, so with accepting your offer, for those of you that haven't yet accepted your offer at UCD, you will do so by logging into your UCD account or your SysWeb account and choose the offer of admission to the program that you would like to accept. This is very important if you applied to or received multiple offers to multiple different programs. You'll click accept and pay your tuition deposit. Once you've accepted, you will be issued a UCD number. Now, this is important if you have a conditional offer, you will not receive a UCD student number until the conditions have been met. If you have any questions about your conditions or anything like that, you can reach out to your regional representative. Check your offer letter for your decision deadline, as it does vary per graduate course. And then for those of you that are still in school, make sure that you have your final and official transcript sent to North America at UCD.ie this summer. And if you're not sure if you already sent in your final or official transcript, you can reach out to double check, but that will be required. So please ensure that you do that.
Moving on to some fees, there's usually a lot of questions around fees and federal aid at UCD. So as you prepare to accept your offer or you're approaching your decision deadline, you might be wondering how fees will work. The fee payments are due by the first day of classes in September, and they can be made by semester. If anyone out there is planning on using federal aid, I'll get to that in just a second, from the US government. You can, very much like the US system, use that loans to cover your tuition. They will usually hit your tuition first, and then if you're living on campus, go to the campus housing fees second. You may be able to pay your fees or wish to pay your fees in installments. So there's really just 1/3 of that tuition payment that is due on the first day of classes. And then there's a fee schedule for the remaining 2/3 of that payment. Payments can be made by credit or debit card on SysWeb, Visa, MasterCard Preferred, bank transfer. And for international students, if you're having any trouble at all due to your bank, your credit card, or just trouble with our system in making payment, we do recommend that you use TransferMate. TransferMate allows more flexibility, more receipts for you to receive, and just always use your UCD applicant ID when using TransferMate in order to make your payments, whether it's for a deposit or for the tuition. It's a lot more easily to track back to you if you use that UCD student ID. While we're on the subject of fees, I wanted to mention that many of you are probably awaiting decisions on one of our big scholarships, which is the Global Excellence Scholarship. The committee will be meeting in the next few weeks, and we do expect to have the awardees notified by early May on that decision on the 50% and 100% tuition scholarships. For US federal aid, we did recently host an overview of how federal aid from the US government works at UCD. I'm going to send that YouTube link in the chat, but we'll be doing one more in depth on really how the application and the details of that application works for graduate students, because some of you may be taking out loans for the first time. So just stay tuned to your email on when we'll be hosting that. It will be in early May to walk you through how the federal aid application works at UCD. We do accept all US federal loans. We do not accept Pell Grants. We are eligible to receive the VA benefits and GI Bill. If that applies to you, please reach out to our federal aid office at federalaid@ucd.ie, because there is a bit of a backlog if the program's not already been approved, and we want to ensure that you'll be eligible to use those funds in a timely manner. We have lots of links to send you. There's a lot of great information on our federal aid website. Again, we'll be hosting a more in-depth webinar shortly. One thing I definitely want to point out, though, is if you are in a graduate program that does require or is has part of an internship, federal aid works differently with programs with internships. So I just want to caution, especially anyone in any career programs, The SPIRE programs, with the length of internship, it can cause some disruption on funding. So just be sure to reach out to SPIRE if you are a U.S. federal aid recipient or plan to use that, or to myself or federalaid@ucd.ie to answer questions there. And the big deadline, if you haven't done anything with federal aid just yet, that is just fine, because the big deadline at UCD is the July 31st federal aid application due on SysWeb. That's where you'll be uploading information about your entrance counseling and your SAR and your cost of attendance. So there's still plenty of time to get all of the information in that you need in order for a timely disbursement in September. I'm going to pass it back over to Carly, but just know that over the next few slides, we'll be going over an overview of a lot of the subjects you're wondering about, and we do plan on having additional webinars, pre-departure sessions to go into more depth into a lot of these subjects, and we're happy to answer any questions you have in the chat.
Thanks so much, Shannon. So moving on to on-campus accommodation, graduate students can live on campus. It is first come, first served, and our housing registration is open now. So I do stress that if you are interested or wanting to live on campus, book that sooner than later, as it is open and it will fill. We recommend the Belfield campus unless you're studying at Smurfit, then the Black Rock campus would be the best option for you there. We have 38-week and 50-week options. And then with off-campus accommodation, I know that I've seen a little bit of chatter about this in the Facebook group. So with off-campus accommodation, our main piece of advice is that we advise that you never hand over money for accommodation in the private rental sector without viewing a property in person or receiving a signed lease. It is just that, it's private accommodation. It's not affiliated with UCD in any way. So we just advise that for your safety, please don't hand over any money prior to viewing that space. So off-campus accommodation is going to be available in a variety of styles and Dublin neighborhoods. Students will really live all over depending on what best suits your lifestyle and what you're looking for. I know that Colin, Jackie, and we all have different experiences in living off campus, so I'll let them speak to their experience. For instance, I lived off campus in a couple of different just private, shared accommodation spaces that I found through daft.ie, and in that way I arrived to Dublin just a couple of weeks prior to my course started, so I really had some time to find space there and then moved in. So I'll let Jackie and Colin speak a little bit about their experience in finding off-campus accommodation.
I also use daft.ie, but in my experience, I already had friends living in Ireland, and so they already got the place and I just was able to move in. So I had a very, very easy experience. But when I studied abroad during undergrad, I lived on campus in Belgrove. So I've kind of had both the on and off campus experiences, and both have their pros and cons. So.
So I live in a student accommodation that is unassociated with any type of college. It's kind of like a third-party apartment building for students, which is something I feel like the United States doesn't typically have. And I chose to do this option as when I was moving to Ireland, it was quite restrictive with COVID, and I wasn't able to get here before my program to kind of apartment hunt. So this was kind of my alternative to kind of have secured housing, and I don't regret it. It's quite nice. I'm happy to speak about it a little bit more later. So that's my experience.
Thank you so much. So there's a couple of links in here. We're going to be sending this presentation out via email as well, so that you'll have access to those links so you can click on some of the different resources. As far as immigration, we won't get too far into this today. The main thing is with a US or a Canadian passport, you are not required to apply for a visa prior to arrival. So don't worry about applying for anything prior to going abroad. You'll go through Irish border control, be stamped in for up to 90 days. And then once you get through Irish border control, you will have to register with immigration registration. That's an additional cost of €300 per year. And the Irish residence permit card is necessary to remain in Ireland. So it is 100% required that you do register and you go through that process. So with health insurance as well, this is going to be an immigration requirement. Private health insurance is required in order to satisfy that immigration requirement. You can use your policy from home as you'll be on a course that's 1 year or less, but you do need to ensure that this policy covers up to 25,000 euro in hospital costs. And that it's valid abroad. You can see our global website for any further details on that, but you'll need to contact your provider if you plan on using your home plan. If not, we have some group schemes available on our website that can help you out there. And then as far as once you are abroad, we do have student health services on campus from 9:30 to 4, Monday through Friday. Sometimes, or more often than not, those illnesses do not happen during business hours. So concerns outside of these hours can be made at nearby urgent healthcare clinics. We're not too far from the Dublin City Centre, so there's multiple kind of walk-in clinics in the area that can get you situated there. And we also have a pharmacy on campus. All right, so now orientation and traveling to UCD. We will have some more pre-arrival webinars planned over the summer with more updates. Our new student orientation will begin on September 5th. This will include academic information, international student-specific events, and just more social events. When it comes to your program orientation, again, that's going to be specific to your specific course. So you'll just need to look out for any contact from your academic program regarding academic orientation, and that may vary for each course as to what exactly that looks like. On-campus accommodation opens no earlier than September 1st, so if you are planning to live on campus, just note that September 1st is the earliest day that you can move in. And then our first day of classes is going to be September 12th. And if you haven't already done so, we have a Facebook group for our incoming North American undergraduate and graduate students that we encourage you to join. It's just a great space to connect with other students from the area, and then also to answer any of those quick little questions you may have. Right, some more important dates. So in the first semester, like I said, orientation will start September 5th. September 12th is our first day of classes. Final exams are going to vary between December 10th to 22nd. What that looks like, as we all kind of touched on earlier in the academic portion, that will vary depending on your course. And then semester 2 will start on January 23rd. You'll have spring break in March, and then the final exams will be in May, and the trimester dates can be found on our key dates website as well, as that will take place in the summer. All right, so then now that we're kind of outside of the academic and the kind of nitty-gritty details of what it's like moving to Ireland and kind of getting set up there, now's on to the fun part about getting involved on campus and in Ireland as well. So at UCD, we are a more traditional feeling campus with a full variety of sports clubs and teams at a variety of levels, different student societies and events run through the student union. So overall, we have about 200 clubs and societies combined, and this is open to all students. So even though you're a graduate student, I still encourage you to join and go to any of these events that you may be interested in. I was a member of the Dance Society while I was at UCD, and it was absolutely a great decision. It's where I made some of my closest friends outside of the classroom, and just a great way to get involved and meet other students on campus that have similar interests to you. So I highly encourage it. I was not the only graduate student there. There were other graduate students as well. So it was a great way to get involved. And Jackie, I'll let you speak a little bit about your on-campus experience.
Yeah, I joined both the International Student Society and the French Club. And they were just both clubs I was really interested in. I do highly recommend looking into the International Student Society because it's one of like the bigger societies, I feel like, and it's great just to meet other international students because you have a shared experience. And they did at the time, I don't know if they still do, but I'm sure that they do. They had a bunch of events and different trips around Ireland. So it's also a great way to see Ireland with other students as well.
Thank you. And then also with UCD being about 20 to 30 minutes south of the Dublin City Centre, you can get into the city quite quickly and quite easily. So, just on campus activities, you're not just limited to just participating on campus. So Colin, do you want to speak a little bit about the accessibility of Dublin kind of that you have while being a student at UCD?
Sure. So I do live in city center, so I'm about a 30-minute commute from UCD's campus, and I take a direct bus line a block away from my apartment, and it goes all the way to campus. And so navigating buses is incredibly easy. As a student, you get a reduced fare that caps off per day and per week, which is really nice. So you're never spending too much on kind of commuter fare, as well as just being a part of the city. If you don't know, Ireland has lots of pubs, and you can partake in that culture if you drink. And so there's a lot of things to do, lots of sights to see, a lot of shows always going on, great shopping, parks. So just it's a really beautiful city, and it's quite old as well. And so just living kind of out or getting outside of campus is highly recommended.
Yeah, absolutely. And just touching on that as well, in the city center, you'll have access to trains and buses that will take you outside of the city as well. So you can visit the rest of what Ireland has to offer. You can get to other cities in Ireland quite easily. And then you have the Dublin airport just on the north side of the city, which can get you either back to the States or to mainland Europe or really anywhere else in the world pretty easily as well.
Yeah, the bus going to the airport also stops at UCD, which I found really, really convenient. Especially living on campus, or if I had class or whatever that day. I also used the Irish trains a lot, and I love them, and I highly recommend you literally you can book it online, or you can book it at the train station and go to different towns. One of my favorites was doing the Dublin Galway route, because that's all the way across, and it's just beautiful, and you see a lot of sheep and and a lot of cows, and then you're in a different kind of city in like 2.5 hours. It's lovely.
Yeah,
and there's great Wi-Fi as well on trains and buses, which I'm not used to living in like the New York City area, so I thought that was really great. And on the trains they also have tables as well, so I was able to do like class readings and class assignments on the train, and it was lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a shorter cross-country trip in Ireland with 2.5 to 3 hours. So definitely worth your while of making sure taking advantage of that. And on that note as well, with your student LEAP card that Colin mentioned, you can also get discounted student fares on Irish rail and buses as well. You'll just need to ensure that you have either the student LEAP card or your student card, whichever they require on hand. But there are a lot of student deals in Dublin and in Ireland in general, as it's incredibly student friendly. So I always recommend taking advantage of those.
You can also get your LEAP card on campus, and there's a lot of different shops and stuff that you can also top up your LEAP card as well. Sorry.
I was just going to ask, there's possibly some budget-minded students listening, and if you were asking about how much the weekly or maybe monthly cost is. I know there's a reduced fare for students, but as far as what does it top out at? If anyone knows, I can't remember.
So per day, the bus tops out at €5, which is about like a round trip. And then per week, it tops off, I believe, at €25. However, they just announced they're reducing all fare rates starting in May. So we're not sure what that looks like. So it will be cheaper when you get here, which is good.
Yeah, and the cost depends on where you're going. So I think usually I spent around like €3 or so. It's also, you can also pay on the bus like with coins as well, but it's a little bit more expensive. So if you definitely want to save a couple of cents every time, highly recommend always having your LEAP card reload, because it's a lot easier as well. You just tap on, tap off, or you can also tell the bus driver where you're going. And there's like I just saw the thing about there's like a pad thing, and you literally just take your card and scan. It's very high tech. Like, we're not used to that in the States, but.
Yeah, so I'm just going to add some clarity in questions that I'm seeing in the chat really quickly, because we're using some lingo. I think we're using some Irish jargon there. So topping up is going to be really just loading your card, adding money onto your card, which you can do, like Jackie said, at various points on campus, and kind of those little stop and shop kind of areas in the city. So a Centra or a Spar is going to be pretty common, where you can go in, you can say, I want to top up my LEAP card, I want to add money to it, and you can just add money onto the card, so it's right preloaded on there. To get your student LEAP card, you will need to, I believe, have your student card from UCD before you can get the student LEAP card, but you can get a general LEAP card, which the fares are just going to be, you know, the normal pricing, not that student rate. You can get that at any stage, and then you can switch over to the student LEAP card once you have kind of all of those documents in order. And as Jackie mentioned, with paying with any LEAP card, it's going to be a cheaper fare than paying cash. So I would recommend, even if you're planning on traveling a bit throughout the city before getting that student LEAP card, just getting a LEAP card so you have that accessibility.
And I'll just jump in real quick, and something I mentioned where I says it caps off at €5 every day. That doesn't mean you can only kind of travel up to €5. Like after you spend €5, it is free. So if I'm taking 7 buses in one day, don't know why you would, but you never know. After I spend €5 on bus fares for that day, whenever I top on the bus, it will just be free. They won't charge me, but I'm allowed to be on the bus. So it saves you money that way, where you're not overspending.
Great clarification. Thank you. All right, so we'll move on and we'll answer more of these specific questions on in just a moment in the Q&A section there. So now just kind of transitioning kind of post UCD, what does life look like kind of while on UCD's campus for career and alumni support and after the fact? So UCD has been the #1 in Ireland 4 years in a row for graduate employability. We have nearly 300,000 alumni around the world, so you are not limited to only working in Ireland. You're able to take that degree around the world. We have 14 alumni chapters just in North America alone, and we have the UCD Alumni Network available now in your incoming student portal. And one thing I always love to hit on is that graduate students that receive a graduate degree from a university in Ireland are eligible for a 2-year stay-back visa after graduation to seek full-time employment. So 2 years after, or for 2 years after receiving your graduate degree, you can live and work in Ireland on that visa. So no additional sponsorship or anything like that required. All right, and then we have a great deal of further resources. As I said earlier, this presentation will be emailed out, so you'll have access to these clickable links here. So feel free to go through all of that. The big pieces of advice I always say to take away is check your email often, make sure that it's an updated email you have access to, and connect with other students.